The Galactic Accord Research Station Theta-9 had seen many unusual things in its 11 years orbiting the jungle moon of Vorath Prime. But nothing, not the three-headed serpent migration, not the bioluminescent storm of 47, not even the time Commander Yates accidentally insulted the Vorath High Elder by blinking too slowly, had prepared it for what happened in Bay 7 on a quiet Tuesday morning. A human got bitten by a Thurak cub. And then he hugged it. Ethan Cross had been warned. Every diplomat, xenobiologist, and battle-scarred soldier who had ever shared a meal with the Thurak had said the same thing, always in the same hushed, reverent tone: do not touch the cubs. The Thurak were apex predators, 8 feet of sleek obsidian muscle, retractable carbon fiber claws, and amber eyes that could track a shadow in absolute darkness. They stood upright, walked on 2 legs, and wore their kills as trophies across their broad shoulders. Their civilization had conquered 3 star systems before humanity had invented the wheel. Their language was built from growls, clicks, and subsonic vibrations that human vocal cords could only approximate at best. And their children, their cubs, were sacred. Thurak cubs were not pets. They were not cute. They were killing machines in miniature, protected by a cultural law older than their written history. Any non-Thurak that caused harm to a cub, intentional or otherwise, triggered the Rathkoval, the blood reckoning. It was not a trial. It was not a negotiation. It was simply war. Ethan Cross, xenoanthropologist, age 31, sole human researcher assigned to the Thurak Cultural Exchange Program, had read every single one of those reports. He had also, apparently, forgotten all of them the moment he walked into Bay 7 and saw a small black-furred cub sitting alone on a cargo crate, trembling. "Hey," Ethan said softly, the way he'd been taught never to speak to a Thurak, directly, without challenge posture, without distance. "You okay, little guy?" The cub, no larger than a medium-sized dog, all oversized paws and enormous golden eyes, turned and stared at him. Ethan knew enough Thurak body language to recognize distress. The ears were flat. The tail was wrapped tight around the cub's own body. The tiny chest was heaving with rapid, shallow breaths. Something scared it, Ethan thought. Something scared it badly. He crouched down, making himself smaller. "I'm not going to hurt you," he murmured. "I promise." The cub stared. Then it sniffed. Then, with the velocity and precision of a tiny furry missile, it launched itself forward and sank its needle-sharp milk teeth directly into Ethan's forearm. Ethan did not scream. Mostly because the bite, while shockingly fast, was not that deep. Thurak cub teeth were designed to latch onto prey and hold, not to shred, and Ethan's field jacket absorbed most of it. But it broke skin. A thin line of red bloomed against his wrist. He also did not pull away. He did not hit the cub. He did not make a single aggressive motion. He exhaled slowly. And then, because Ethan Cross had spent 3 years living with rescued animals on his grandmother's farm in rural Colorado before he ever touched a xenobiology textbook, he did the only thing that felt natural. He sat down on the floor. Brought the cub, still latched onto his arm, gently into his lap. And he started talking. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay. You're scared. I get it. I get it, buddy. You bit me, and that's fine. That's allowed. You're allowed to be scared." The cub growled, low and uncertain. "My name's Ethan. I know you don't understand me. That's okay too." He carefully, slowly brought his other hand up and rested it on the cub's back, not restraining, just present. "You're safe. Whatever scared you, it's not here anymore. I've got you." The cub's growl died. The teeth slowly released. And then, in what would later be described in 17 separate incident reports, 2 academic papers, and 1 viral transmission that reached 63 inhabited systems, the Thurak cub pressed its small head against Ethan Cross's chest, curled into a tight ball in his lap, and went to sleep. Raxor Thorn arrived in Bay 7 40 seconds later, moving at a full combat sprint, which, for a Thurak Guardian, meant he hit the doorway doing something close to 50 kilometers per hour. He stopped. Every combat instinct he possessed, honed through 20 years of service protecting Thurak young, processed the scene in the doorway in under a second. The cub, sleeping. Breathing steady. Distress posture dissolved. The human, seated on the floor. Bleeding from the forearm. Not moving. Not threatening. One hand resting gently on the cub's back, the other holding perfectly still, as if he understood that any sudden motion would shatter something fragile and precious. Raxor's claws had been halfway extended. They retracted. He crossed the bay in measured steps, stopped 3 feet from the human, and stared down at him with eyes that had witnessed war on 4 planets and never once flinched. The human looked up. Did not look away. In Thurak culture, holding eye contact with a guardian over a cub was either supreme confidence or supreme stupidity. Raxor had seen both. He had killed both. But this human's eyes held something Raxor did not have a word for in standard galactic. They were calm. Not the calculated calm of a warrior suppressing fear. Something older. Something that smelled, inexplicably, of safety. "You are bleeding," Raxor said in careful, clipped standard. His voice was a subterranean rumble, like boulders shifting. "I'm aware," Ethan said softly. He didn't move his hands. He was scared. I think something startled him in the outer corridor, a pressure seal blew. I heard it on my way in. Raxor said nothing. He was watching the cub. The cub, whose name was Carix, his sister's youngest, who had nightmares since the evacuation of Vorotha's 3rd continent, was breathing in long, even waves. No tremors. No stress clicks. "He bit you," Raxor said. A statement. Not quite a question. "He did," Ethan agreed. "You know what that means." "I know what your law says it means." Ethan paused. "I also know he's a baby who was terrified and alone, and I wasn't going to leave him like that." Raxor crouched down to Ethan's level. This was not a gesture Thurak Guardians made. Crouching was a vulnerability, and Raxor had not been vulnerable in 2 decades. He studied the human from 6 inches away, the steady pulse at his throat, the lack of fear scent, the blood drying quietly on his wrist without complaint. "You should have run," Raxor said. "Probably," Ethan said. "You should have called for evacuation. For a guardian. For anyone but yourself." "I should have," Ethan agreed. But he didn't have time for that. Raxor was quiet for a very long moment. In that silence, the political machinery of 3 star systems was theoretically grinding into motion. The bite had been logged by the station's biosensors. Within the hour, the Thurak High Council would receive an automated alert. Within 6 hours, Raxor's superior, Elder Vaxar, would demand a formal accounting. The Rathkoval would be invoked. Humanity's 6 diplomatic outposts in Thurak space would be notified. All of that was real. All of that was coming. But right now, in Bay 7, a small cub named Carix was sleeping soundly for the first time in 8 months. And Raxor Thorn, guardian of the 3rd Ward, who had never in his life done what he was about to do, reached out and placed one massive, clawed hand, carefully, on the human's shoulder. "You will need medical attention," he said. "In a minute," Ethan said. Raxor sat down on the floor beside him. "In a minute," he agreed. The incident report filed the next morning by Raxor Thorn was the shortest document ever submitted to the Thurak High Council in recorded history. It read, in full: "No Rathkoval is warranted. The human did not cause harm. He prevented it. Recommend commendation. Recommend continued station assignment. Recommend he be given better medical supplies. He is apparently not bothered by pain, which concerns me professionally." Elder Vaxar read it 4 times. Then she sent it to every Thurak High Council member with a single annotation attached. This is what their species does. Begin reassessing all prior threat classifications immediately. Ethan Cross received 17 stitches, a formal Thurak honor bead threaded onto a cord and placed around his wrist by Raxer himself, and a cub who thereafter refused to sleep unless Ethan was somewhere in the same building. He also received a comlink message from his department head at the Xenoanthropology Institute that read, "What did you do?" He replied, "My job." Across 63 inhabited systems, the story spread. Not the political story. Not the diplomatic story. The simple one, a human, alone in a room with an apex predator's child, bleeding and unbothered, choosing comfort over survival instinct. Most species didn't have a word for it. The Thurak, eventually, borrowed one from English. They called it Ethan, which, in their evolving lexicon, came to mean the one who stays.